already in the first few days, and what we are going to be discussing today is really how we, even though we are here in Dubai, we also have regional level cooperation for engaging in climate action that transcends not only the environment box, where often climate change is situated, but also goes into other sectors that are priority, that are affected by climate change, as also contribute to the solutions and ways for mobilizing climate action towards achieving our global goals, again, specifically in the water, energy, and food system sectors. So without further ado, we have a very esteemed panel to start with. We are opening with a high-level panel on regional cooperation and initiatives for raising climate ambition in the Arab region. We'll have everyone give a 5-minute intervention, and then we will open for questions briefly. The minister is on his way. We'll see if he makes it on time with the distances at play here on this beautiful area of the COP. And then we'll turn to an expert panel discussion during the second half of our session on operationalizing the water, energy, food nexus, implementing specific adaptation and mitigation actions in the Arab regional context. So I'm very honored to turn over the first statement to Dr. Rola Dashti. She is the United Nations Undersecretary General and Executive Secretary of ESCWA, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, to share with us the context and how we are pursuing climate action in the region and how we have gotten to where we are. Please, Dr. Dashti.
Thank you, Carlos. Good morning, friends and colleagues. Today we're meeting to reflect on a significant journey that began 15 years ago during ESCWA's 25th ministerial session. It was then the Arab states united to adopt their first joint resolution on climate change, a pivotal moment following closely on the heels of the first Arab declaration on climate change. This resolution was more than a statement. It was a call to action, directing ESCWA to assess our region's vulnerability to climate change. In partnership with the League of Arab States and UNEP, we embarked on a mission to enhance climate awareness across the region. Now, let me look at where we stand today. The Arab region, as all of you know, is alarmingly vulnerable to climate change. Through the collaborative efforts under our RECAR initiative, which now boosts partnership with over a dozen esteemed institutions, some of you are here today, we've gained crucial insights. As you know, by 2030, our region could see an average temperature rise of 0.8 degrees, escalating to a staggering 4.8 degrees Celsius by century's end under a business-as-usual scenario. We're also witnessing more erratic rainfall, leading to increased flash floods, droughts, and sandstorms. Climate change disproportionately affects our least developed countries and those grappling with conflict and crisis. Understanding these challenges, ESCWA is focusing on strategic responses. The first one we're focusing on is strengthening our knowledge base and science. And let me announce today, we're proud to announce a new set of regional climate projections for the Mashriq, enhancing open access to climate data through RECAR, our regional knowledge hub, and thanks to our Swedish partnership. This is crucial for integrating climate consideration into water and agriculture policies for our member states. Also, we're boosting climate resilience. Our Regent initiative has been instrumental in promoting green employment and income opportunities, especially for women, through initiatives like solar panel installations and small businesses training in Jordan, Lebanon, Tunisia, and coming soon, Mauritania. Our intergovernmental cooperation, we are looking with GLAS, FAO, AOAD, WMO, and UNEP to foster regional collaboration in water, agriculture, meteorology, and climate negotiations. And the most important thing that we are all talking about at COP is focusing on finance. Recognizing the gap in climate finance, particularly for adaptation and for LDCs, we are actively mobilizing resources to address these needs. And Our partnership with LAS, GCF, ISDB, FAO, Sweden, UNFCCC, and the UN Climate Change High-Level Champions are pivotal in this regard. Our Climate SDG Debt Swap Donor Nexus initiative also helps countries create the fiscal space for investing in climate action. And most recently, and we are proud of, our new collaboration with the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development, which aims to expand the RECAR knowledge base to the country level and develop a regional climate finance taxonomy, crucial for directing investments towards green and climate resilient initiatives in the Arab states. Friends and colleagues, as ESCWA celebrates its 50th anniversary this year, it's heartening to see how our partnerships have flourished. Our focus has evolved from understanding climate change to actively pursuing climate commitments and securing vital finance for resilience. Thank you for your attention and for your continued partnership in this crucial endeavor, because as all of you know, climate, no one country, no one institution can solve the climate issue. It's our collaboration and partnership that will address the climate challenges we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Dashti. Exactly, that the collaboration is what makes us move forward. Our next speaker, Her Excellency, Her Royal Highness Princess Noura bint Turki Al Saud, is founding partner of Aon Strategy and an advisory board member on the Circular Economy and Circular Carbon Initiative at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She's been very active in the area of mitigation and innovative instruments, and if you could please share with us your views on how we can raise and address our climate challenges in the region.
Thank you very much, Carol. I'd like to start by going back a couple of years, pre-Vision 2030. I assume that most of the people here are familiar with the Saudis, with the Kingdom's Vision 2030, which was launched in 2015, which really took a societal approach to development. For the longest time, the Kingdom has been heavily reliant on the revenues from oil exports. And this constant narrative that Saudi Arabia is a rich country relying on oil exports that can pay itself out of any challenges that it's faced has been continuing all along. Now, of course, the realities on the ground is the complete opposite. We're a developing country. We have a growing population, and most of them are youth. The challenges that we face are real, and they're in fact very challenging to address, because not only are you dealing with a growing population, that growing population and developments comes with a lot of environmental impact and challenges. And the way we are looking at addressing this is through this comprehensive vision, which is called Vision 2030. Now, the vision is more of a roadmap for the Kingdom to engage each and every individual in society to take it upon themselves to do what they can in order to promote economic development, environmental sustainability, and even more so taking it beyond sustainability, but regeneration of our ecosystems. Now, another component is Saudi Arabia is also one of the only Arab countries that is part of the G20. And having a seat on the G20 allows it to communicate the voices of developing nations of the global south, countries in Southeast Asia, as well as countries in Africa. And I think this is a critical component for the Kingdom because it has that leadership position in the energy sector, but it also is aligned with the needs and requirements of developing nations. And I think this has been really lacking on the development stage and the global narrative that has been constantly driven by the narrative of developed nations. And we are seeing that constantly. We are seeing that trickle down into the conversations at COP. 28 COPs, and we are still fighting for the money that should go to developing nations and fighting. And I think this is where the critical problem lies, is because the voices and the needs, the situational needs that are specific to these developing nations have not been taken into consideration seriously. So what the Kingdom is really doing is really looking internally what it can do for its own economy to develop a sustainable approach to environmental conservation, to climate mitigation and adaptation as well, but also understanding the needs of the regional countries and also developing nations that it works with. So we acknowledge that there will be continuous demand for fossil fuels for the foreseeable future, but we also acknowledge that the role of renewables will continually increasing, and it's there's an inextricable link between development and the growth of renewable energy. Under that, of course, the Kingdom has established multiple initiatives and regional efforts. I think the most important one is the Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative that takes this comprehensive approach. We are committed to saving 30% of our land and oceans, and these are actions that are being taken on the ground, because I know this not just from reading papers or announcements. I am actively working in these spaces and looking at the effort that is being put into conservation in the Kingdom. In addition to that, the MGI extends the effort beyond the national borders because, again, climate and biodiversity is not limited within borders. So it's catalyzing efforts within the region because the success of the region means the success of Saudi Arabia and vice versa. And I think if this region is successful, then I think this success will trickle down globally, not only to developing countries, but also to developed nations. And then I want to turn to the circular carbon economy, which is a fundamental component of the Saudi Green Initiative, specifically charged with tackling emissions from the energy sector. There's of course the remove component, recycle, reduce, remove, recycle, reduce, and remove. So under the circular carbon economy, the Kingdom's approach is really a comprehensive one that takes a societal approach and sectoral approach to mitigation. Within that framework, we have announced that 50% of our energy will come from renewable energies, and the other 50% will come from natural gas power plant. Now, where does the action come? It is not only talk, it is action. Just last year, the Minister of Energy announced that no new gas-fired power plant will be developed without carbon capture technologies. Even though these technologies are called or deemed to be expensive in a sense, it has been set, and some of the agreements that have not been signed have been reverted back in order to ensure that carbon capture is installed, and the designs have been retrofitted to ensure that. Other than that, there's the plantation effort, so nature-based solutions, a fundamental aspect as well of the remove and reduce. So with that, we'll be planting 10 billion trees for mitigation efforts. Now, of course, there's the adaptation component, and I think I can talk about that later just because time constraints. So there's a lot to discuss, but I'll leave that to the conversation.
I'm sure the audience, thank you very much. There's been a lot of talk about the Saudi Green Initiative, the Middle East Green Initiative, and especially when we're talking about Arab cooperation. Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit more that in the question of answer, because that is really something not only that Saudi Arabia is doing for itself, but for the region as a whole, that shows the collaboration going forward on climate action. If I can turn to our next distinguished speaker, Dr. Muafaq Sa'ar is head of the projects division at the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development in Kuwait. He has been working on green projects for a while, and we are very pleased to see the Arab funds, quite honestly, as a whole, also much more active in the climate space. And the leadership being provided by the Arab Fund specifically shows how much more important climate has become for the region as we look forward, not only for financing, but mainstreaming this into our programs of work and strategies. So if I could turn over to you, Dr. Sa'ar, as to how the Arab Fund is looking forward for acting on climate.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everybody. As we are talking about regional cooperation and initiatives in the Arab region, I would like to start with saying that the Arab Fund launched recently an initiative to support green projects in the Arab countries. This initiative consists of providing concessional loans. Concessional loans means with lower interest rate, providing grants. We allocated $5 million for 2 years. Already we finalized almost 4 grants, one about capacity building for climate change with ESCWA. This is the aim of that, is to building capacity in the Arab region. The second one is the capacity building for climate change in water and agriculture. It will be with ICARDA. And the third one, studies for rehabilitation Sujumi wetland in Tunisia. And the fourth one, support of green initiatives in some Arab cities, which will be implemented by the Arab Urban Development Institute. In addition, we have launched what we call it competition for small and creative green projects. This is grants to be given for small projects. And for phase one, we have selected 7 countries. We will start this grant early 2024. The countries which will be Morocco, Tunisia, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Mauritania, and Kuwait. Just to mention a success story, somebody sometimes it is not well known that there is sometimes there is a success stories in Arab cooperation in areas related to climate change. This is an example for the Arab Fund's contribution to electrical interconnection projects. All of these, between Syria and Lebanon, between Jordan and Egypt, between Tunisia and Libya, Morocco and Spain, even between Arab countries and between Arab countries and foreign countries. The Arab Fund contributed with around $1 billion for these projects. Most of these projects have been completed, by the way. And just last month, for example, we gave the latest loan for projects to connect Jordan with Saudi Arabia. Another success stories in the Arab cooperation really is to have creating regional centers. Even the Arab Center for Climate Change Policies, which is in ESCWA, the International Center for Agricultural Research in the dry areas, ICARDA and ACSAD. These are good examples, represent the regional cooperation and the need to be supported in this regard. The last, and I can mention also, and this is a very wide regional cooperation, this is a very wide subject, therefore what can be done and potential cooperation areas for the future, and the Arab Fund will be interested to support these areas. Capacity building programs for Arab institutions, for example, to have an online learning programs, scientific research, which is in Arab countries, the scientific research still need a lot of efforts, raising awareness in areas related to the climate change as water conservation, renewable energies, and so on. Translation documents and increase the Arabic language. This is something which is very important, and we are looking forward to support the Arabic language content in the Arab Fund in areas like the climate change, and conduct regional conferences. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sa'ar. The point of making sure that there's information available in Arabic is an important one. Actually, with the Rakar initiative that Dr. Dashti had mentioned, intentionally effort is made to have the regional knowledge hub always available and all the data set accessible in English and in Arabic, as well as the assessment reports that are used, in order to create more peer-reviewed knowledge and allow the knowledge base in the Arabic language and for the Arab region to work for the Arab region. That is a very important aspect, as well as, of course, our collaboration that we'll be having starting up together with you soon. Ya Wazir, thank you so much for making it. We know that this is a very big space, and we very much appreciate the presence of Your Excellency Minister Walid Fayyad, Minister of Energy and Water, showing his energy to come all the way here from Lebanon. We thank you for being able to join us. We know it's a busy program, but if you could share with us on the water perspective, we've heard right now about the need for information and collaboration on the finance side, on the mitigation side from Saudi Arabia, and the work on circular carbon economy. If you could share with us a little bit of your insights. You've been very active on the water agenda nationally, of course, and regionally. If you could share with us your thoughts on how to accelerate climate action and what initiatives are available for us to build upon, drawing from your lessons. Your
Yes,
Excellency.
thank you. Thank you, Carol, and I apologize for arriving late. I actually factored in about 15 or even more minutes to be early, but it's the first time I come through this access. I was accessing through the other side for official parties. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for attending the panel. I don't think that we talk enough about water when we address climate change issues. I have a thesis that while the climate change challenge is one that is intrinsically driven by the Industrial Revolution that and that translated into a use of fossil fuel, and it's therefore driven by energy problems. I have an appreciation that the impact of climate change is mostly felt actually in the water sector, whether through climate events like storms and droughts, and whether through also the decrease in availability of water for the population. So on that point, an example in Lebanon, we started not so long ago, I think about 20 years ago, with about 1,900 cubic meters of renewable energy per capita per year in Lebanon. And today, with the dual effect of two things, climate change on one side and the rapid demographic growth on the other, we only can rely on the third of that, which is about 700 cubic meters per capita per year. What does this say? It says that one of the richer countries in the Middle East region, in the Arab world indeed, one of the richer ones, maybe just after Turkey, is becoming now water scarce, which means we need a lot more serious initiatives to better harness the water resource. And when we talk about that, we talk about all using technologies, but also using finance in order to attend to these issues. Projects in the Arab world such as desalination today are needed in Iraq because of the droughts that are going on. Projects such as harnessing rainwater or building wastewater treatment plants and using the treated wastewater in irrigation. All this requires a lot of funding, not just planning. We in Lebanon, for example, have many plans, but we unfortunately do not have the funding available for it. On this forum, what I call for is for the international institutions, but also the regional institutions such as the Arab Fund for Development, which is present with us today, to try and put aside the conditions that are set forth for Lebanon as a whole to access funding that is needed, at least for the water challenges, which are intrinsically related to the climate change issues. So that's what I call for. I ask that the World Bank and the Arab Fund and other relevant institutions prioritize the spending in the water sector, resume the projects that have been halted, such as the construction of the Bisri Dam and other surface water projects and treatment plants, resume those and continue the funding of those, despite the fact that we still await much needed reform. But those reforms really are too slow to move, mainly in the finance sector and not in the water sector. A lot is happening in Lebanon on the water sector. I can have another round maybe later to talk about that. But I salute you for conducting this effort. There's not enough being done in the water sector, and we must mobilize I read a little bit about the foundation and the strategy house AEON, and I also congratulating you for it. It's filling a white space in the Saudi market. I have been a consultant for more than 20 years, and I can attest to that. There's a white space, and now is the right time to launch these initiatives, because a lot of planning also is needed and strategy formulation is needed when you're going to direct so much investment that His Highness MBS is looking to do to green Saudi Arabia. So congratulations again.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you. Sorry. And thank you for bringing up water, but also linking it back to energy and how this is all interconnected and how we need the financials to be able to access the technologies and ensure implementation. Wrapping up this high-level panel, I'd like to turn to Mr. Zaytouni Oud Dada, Deputy Director of the Office of Climate Change, Biodiversity, and the Environment at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, to wrap up this panel with some key messages on the water, agriculture, food nexus when we relate to climate action, and then we'll turn over to some questions. Please, Doctor.
Well, thank you very much, Carol, and good morning, everyone. And it's a really pleasure and an honor to be in this panel with Her Excellency and with Your Excellency as well, and their Secretary and all the other colleagues. So I hope to add some few points that would be useful to this dialogue, in addition to some of the important points that we heard. I think where we are now in the situation all around the world is that, unfortunately, climate change now affects every part of the world. And this is what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is saying. And as we know also from scientific evidence and from observations of what's happening all around the world, is the fact that vulnerable countries and vulnerable communities are most affected and will continue to be most affected. Because unfortunately, we have been so late in dealing with the impact of climate change. And just this year, we've seen all the succession of fires and floods and hurricanes and droughts that have been affecting many parts of the world. And in the Arab region, we've seen in Libya lately and all these devastating floods and affecting people's lives and infrastructure and the life in general. And this is what we're going to witness going forward. And there are some specific challenges in some areas, and the Arab region in particular, and I think you heard that the water scarcity in particular is an immense challenge, and it's something that really has to be addressed urgently. And it's very encouraging to hear the various initiatives that are being put forward and the collaboration to actually to address this. Because the issue in the Arab region is that the region is warming at twice the global average rate. So it's really alarming when you look at the predictions of drought and the impact of climate change in the years to come. And we're not talking about the far future. It's really things that are happening now. As I said, what was to happen in this summer. But there are so many opportunities that I think we need to look at as well. And His Excellency and Your Highness also talked about renewable energy and the fact that there are so many opportunities there really to harness, because it has been demonstrated in many other parts of the world that the future is green. The future is to look at how we can use natural resources in a very effective and sustainable way. We have no choice, because there is a growing population that is going to put so much pressure on natural resources, on water, on housing, on food, on energy, on the way we move around. So we cannot possibly continue with the same model, with the same way of how we're living today. And the Arab region in particular is 6% of the global population. And yet it has less than 2% of the world's renewable energy supply. So again, the opportunity is huge, and it has to be really used in that direction, because it will deliver multiple benefits, not just for climate change, but for livelihood, for the quality of life, and also for sustainability in general. And if we look at agriculture in general, it consumes around 80% of the region's water. So you can see the water scarcity issue and how much water is being used by energy. And Her Excellency highlighted the Saudi Green Initiative and the circular carbon economy and the use of renewable energy. And these are the encouraging initiatives. And Mr. Sakar also highlighted the Arab Fund initiative for green projects. And it's good to see these initiatives going forward. And my other important point, I think, is in terms of how the world is so interconnected, because what's happening in one area affects other areas as well. And here we have the high and growing dependence on international markets for some key staple food products. And this really adds another layer of vulnerability in the region, unfortunately, because this dependency, it does highlight the need for more sustainable approach to agriculture, ensuring that food security, ensuring food security and while also dealing with environmental impact. So these interlinkages, they are really current challenges of climate change, of food and nutrition security, of water scarcity, and also land degradation and biodiversity loss. So I think going forward, and I'll finish with this point. Obviously, I haven't had time to give examples of how FAO is supporting the region, particularly in the water, energy, food nexus in collaboration with other agencies. And I think going forward, I would just want to highlight one point, which is these COPs, there are great opportunities actually for really shedding light on regional challenges and regional opportunities. And we've been lucky in a sense, because last COP27 was in Egypt and now in United Arab Emirates. And it's great opportunity to see the Arab community coming together and really trying to highlight this collaborative initiative that we heard about, and also opportunities going forward. So I'll stop here, and hopefully if there is an opportunity to come back, I could highlight other points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zaytoun. I appreciate the brevity of the speakers, but we also want to hear from you, and I'd like to make sure that we had some space so you can ask probing questions to maybe build on what you just heard today on the high-level panel. Madame, do we have the mic, please? Where is it? Il va s'en occuper. If you could please just introduce yourself briefly, your name and affiliation, and a brief
Hello
question.
everyone, this is Zahra Abu Taha. I'm from Jordan. I'm working with Lingo, and my question is for Her Excellency, for Her Highness, about the Green Saudi Arabia Initiative and the Green Middle East Initiative. When you have these efforts for greening Middle East, do you address, beside the climate change crisis that we witness, other crises, other national context in each country that you reach? I would like to give an example. As Jordan, we have a crisis that we are the world's highest rate of engineer, and we are 1 to 40 citizens. So talking about greening Middle East initiative, we have so many youth capacities to be involved in. So do you look for these things? And the other thing that with the green initiative, are you having any specific plans or policies for the protected areas in Middle East? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just take another question and then we'll go. Yes, please, sir.
Thank you. I'm Yan Tao from China, Global Energy Interconnection Development and Cooperation Organization. Our organization based actually in China, Beijing, and actually GETCO have a long-term strategic partnership with the UNESCWA. Yes, Her Excellency, Dr. Rola Dashti, just a very excellent speech. And also we have a strategic partnership with League of Arab States. And just now, my question is about the capacity building. In last August, we GETCO jointly with UNESCWA and RICRI and Liga Arab State hold a joint capacity building focused on the advanced transmission technology and renewable energy. As we know, in the past 10 years, renewable energy developed very fast, especially large-scale renewable energy, and access to the power grid. This will be very easily cause challenges and trouble to the reliability and stability of power grid. So the serious discussion should be the technical solution. For example, advanced transmission technology, high voltage DC transmission technology, and storage, and also whenever was the chemical storage or something, etc. So my question is also, what's your comments for the large scale renewable energy development and in the future, and especially this kind of challenge to the power system. And also, Her Royal Highness Prince Noha just I'm encouraged heard that Saudi Arabia new target rate is 50% renewable. So as I know in the past it's 42%. So it's a new set targets, and my question is by which year this target will be achieved? Yes.
Thank you very much. I think we've got 2 questions on mitigation, and we have a distinguished panel coming up. So, Your Highness, if you don't mind comforting.
So I'll start from the last question. The target is 50% renewables, 50% natural gas by 2050. 2030. Today, we have about 22 gigawatts of projects under development when it comes to renewable energy. The target is around 130 or just around that number of gigawatts coming only from renewable energy. What we have today installed is about 2% finally installed, in addition to about 60% natural gas. The remaining still is liquid. So there's an important project that is happening in the kingdom right now, which is called the Liquid Displacement Project. This is where we're phasing out of liquid use in generation and bringing in renewable energy to address current capacity needs, but also future capacity needs as we move forward. You also mentioned something that was very important, which is the ultra-high grid and reliability of grid. We have about an 18% capacity for the current grid system to withstand any renewable generation capacity and the volatility that comes with it, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that midstream element, which is fundamental. And I fully agree with you, there is very little focus that is being done globally, this is not specific to the kingdom, but when it comes to grid technologies. And that is something, if we're talking about tripling renewable capacities globally, with COP, I think there should be a fundamental focus on grid stability. And to your point, we need the engineers of the region, we need the capacities, international capacities, expertise, but also regional expertise. In addition to China, you've built a lot of ultra-high grid lines to connect your grid system, and we have a very strong cooperation with China in order to develop the developing countries, Southeast Asian countries. So I think this cooperation, again, back to the point, and maybe I can segue into the Middle East Green Initiative, it doesn't just look at the Middle East, but it really looks at developing nations from the East, because there's a lot of tech exchange that is required, a lot of learning that we could do from neighboring countries, from friendly countries within the region. I've worked a lot in the renewable energy space, and I've encountered a lot of brilliant engineers from Jordan. And I know that because of your energy constraints, there has been a lot of deployment of renewable energies there, and you have all of these capacities. And absolutely, I think, just to mention a couple of things, with Saudi Arabia's net zero targets by 2060, this is something that's not going to be achieved alone. It requires regional collaboration. It requires the engineering capacities, the knowledge, the know-how that our neighboring countries have. So to mention a few, it's not only on energy. There's the Regional Center for Sustainable Fisheries. We have a corporate platform to implement the circular carbon economy, and as well ESCWA Center that will be established for emissions reduction, which is also very important because ESCWA is the voice of the region. It is the voice of the region taking the concerns, it understands the diverse challenges that each and every country faces and brings it onto the international stage in the UN General Assembly. We have cloud seeding programs, a regional center and a hub for climate change and climate change research. Why? Because the impacts of climate change are very specific to the region. We conducted a study recently on trying to understand and when I say we, I'm talking about my institution, which is AON. We looked at what are the impacts of climate change on the Arabian Peninsula. And what we found is a very dispersed set of data sets. There aren't any unified approaches to understanding what the impacts are. And this is not just for the kingdom, it is for the entire region. So I think the creation of the hub for climate change, a regional hub for climate change, to understand the challenges, to understand the impact on the region is fundamental and important. The study, we know already that a 3-degree world globally will mean 4 degrees increase for Saudi Arabia. And this varies even more when you take into account the heat bulb of the region. So there's immense challenges there. Again, back to the comment on water, Your Excellency. I think Saudi Arabia has recently announced the International Water Organization and pledged $25 billion to support that because it understands that demand for water will double in the next couple of years with population growing to 9 billion. And I think this is a regional initiative, but it's also a global initiative, right? It came out of Saudi Arabia, working with regional countries, but also international partners. Because, and I want to segue, maybe last comment here is, why is water important? And people always say that, oh, you can just desalinate. Desalination has a lot of environmental impact, and the energy cost that comes with it is not insignificant. So looking at water security is critically important for food security and all of these other associated environmental challenges that we face. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Johanna. I don't think someone could say it more articulately. Thank you very much for that intervention. Would anyone else like to make any closing comments before we close this high-level panel? Any, yes, Doctora? I don't think, but we'll maybe in the next session. Okay, very quickly. But Doctora, did you have something you wanted to comment on?
It's just comment on what Her Royalness just specified, but it's a question directed to the Minister Walid Fayyad from Lebanon. So the question is, as we are speaking about the complexity of preserving water resources and ecosystems related to water resources, is the construction of a dam, which is a large-scale infrastructure, a sustainable intervention that is not going to prevent further damage to a country that already has ecosystem loss? Thank you.
Thank you. Doctora, would you like to respond? And then I'll turn it to His Excellency. His Excellency first? Okay, please, Your Excellency,
Sure,
would you like to?
Yes.
30
Listen,
seconds?
I am not the project expert on the Bisri Dam. However, I have done enough digging to find out that the World Bank has studied this for over 15 years and has wholeheartedly supported the project on the basis that when you take into account all the impacts of the project, and there are environmental impacts, economic impacts, social impacts, etc. On the whole, this is a relatively sustainable project compared with all alternative solutions. It's a debate that we can have. At the same time, I have my own conviction about it. The world has evolved over the last a couple hundred years at least, with the reliance on harnessing surface water through building dams. It can be done in an increasingly sustainable way. I do not suspect that the solution for the water sector will exclude dam projects in the foreseeable future. It is, from the environmental standpoint, going to save a lot of energy and accordingly going to mitigate a lot of the climate change negative impacts. We can take it offline to follow up the discussion. It is a politically charged issue.
Thank you. We really have to get to the next session. Please, if you could sidebar on that. Thank you very much. Dr. Dashti, if you could wrap up this panel for us.
I just want to say thank you first for the discussions, and most importantly, we just reaffirmed over and over climate change, its impact on the water, energy, and food systems is extremely important, but most importantly is we can't address these issues without our collaborative and partnership in various fronts. And the technical knowledge sharing is extremely important so that to move and address these issues. And we need to continue our journey together so that to address the region, to mitigate all the climate challenges we have. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you to this distinguished panel. If I could ask, please, the second panel to come in. Thank you very much.
You're supposed to sit there. How are you? Putting us in order of speaking.
Sorry, as we're switching, yes? As we switch to the next panel, I know that there's a lot of interesting points that were raised during our first high-level panel, and there is so much to address when we think about, again, water, energy, food security, food systems, water systems, energy systems for the Arab region. If I could kindly ask any sidebar discussions to be taken outside. So we have a very distinguished expert panel now to talk about the challenges related to mobilizing climate action and Arab cooperation in the region. This panel will focus on operationalizing the nexus and looking specifically at adaptation and mitigation actions. Without further ado, I'm very pleased to have with us our League of Arab States partner, who is really responsible for so many of the secretariats to the intergovernmental processes that support climate action in the region. Dr. Mahmoud Fatala is Director of the Department of Environmental and Meteorological Affairs at the League of Arab States in Egypt. If you can please share with us your thoughts about how we move forward on mitigation and adaptation through collaboration.
Thank you.
Yep, you can start.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I would like to talk mainly about the institutional framework in the Arab countries dealing with water, energy, food nexus. So we are mainly depends on specialized ministerial councils in the Arab region to deal with this regard. So we need to enhance the interlinkages between specialized ministerial councils to enhance the mechanism of coordination among those ministerials. As this issue is mainly cross-cutting in all sectors, So it's very important to enhance the talk among different partners in this regard. Um, in adaptation and mitigation action, we mainly encountered a problem of finance, because climate finance is a big issue in the Arab region. So the international cooperation between Arab countries and other international organizations is very important in this regard. So the cooperation between Arab country and between LAS and ESCWA is very important in this regard, as we initiated the Arab climate finance strategy and mobilization. This strategy aims to mobilizing and facilitating finance for the both mitigation and adaptation adaptation in Arab countries. We are looking for adopting this strategy in the near future to facilitate this access to finance in Arab countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud. You are mentioning exactly the strategy with the UNFCCC that is helping us here,
Yes.
and perhaps the Arab Initiative for Mobilizing Climate Finance for Water as well. And maybe
Yes.
you want to mention a sentence on collaboration with water as well as climate on that? Anything? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, maybe we can bring it up also in the questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahmoud. We'll turn over to our next distinguished speaker, now bringing it over to the global level, from the regional to the global, but we are very honored to have with us Stephen Uddenberg, Director of Hydrology, Water, Cryosphere Department at the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, who I know has water in his heart as much as climate. If you can share with us how the WMO is working globally and regionally to help maximize efforts on adaptation as well as mitigation in the Arab region. Please, over to you, Dr. Stefan.
Thank you very much, Chair, dear Carol. Pleasure being here this morning and say a few words, and not only about water, but hopefully about the critical links that water provided also to other systems. Yeah. Let me start that. I was very happy to listen to the first part of the panel, and you know, the vulnerability of the region is very clear. The exposure to more water-related hazards, in particular floods and droughts, I think is very clear. It's rapidly warming. I think the colleague clearly illustrated at a speed twice as high as many other parts of the world. And also the capacity to deal with the efforts is very low. So therefore, I was also happy to see the initiatives like from the Arab Fund Initiative or the Saudi Clean Initiative, really putting also emphasis on implementing innovations, but also looking at the necessary capacity that the region needs to deal with it. And also the League of Arab States and others doing other efforts. Applaudable. However, you invited me to speak about adaptation and mitigation. And if we think about mitigation, earlier this week, or no, we just launched a report, and all these mitigation efforts, while I fully agree we need to transition to a greener energy, but they need a lot of water. So I very much applaud to the change of the energy sources that Her Royal Highness from Saudi Arabia presented, but particular biofuel or the change to more battery-driven leveraging the other renewables is requiring an enormous amount of modes. Earlier this week, a report was published, which is also day after tomorrow presented at the presidency event, and that really indicates biofuel particularly needs a lot of water, and we need even more irrigation, particularly in that region, to deal with the challenges of uncertainty in the climate. And the other one is the move to battery storage, which is important to level out the changes in the energy source fluctuation. Also requires a lot of water. So we are much better off with solar or wind or other sources. Huh? So we shouldn't forget that. When it comes to adaptation, there was a study done by the Global Institute for Adaptation, I believe, in Rotterdam, the colleagues, and they compared a number of different adaptation efforts. So protecting mangroves and making agricultural systems more drought resistant and droughts, salinity, tolerance of plants and others. And the highest return on investment, while noting that the return on investment is a very difficult thing to estimate, but the higher return on investment was on early warning systems. So if we are able to warn society earlier about upcoming floods and droughts, if we're able through even seasonal predictions to give better guidelines on irrigation behavior, etc., that is really a very effective way of becoming more resilient to the challenges related to climate change. And adaptation is a lot about water. I think many have said that before. The global initiative on early warning for all, it's discussed at the moment by Secretary General at the UN in another room today. WMO is co-leading that with other partners and really try to strengthen all the regions of the world, but particularly also the Arab world, I think needs better early warning systems to adapt earlier and to be less vulnerable. Therefore, I would like to mention one effort that the ESCWA, together with WMO, but also League of Arab States and the GCC, is doing the kind of Arab climate outlook, which is kind of 2 times a year the experts meet and making predictions of how likely will the precipitation and temperature develop in the coming season. So that it can be strengthened, can be higher temporal resolution, and we can work on that. But at least it is a regional collaboration which really provides some guidance when it comes to water-using sectors, agriculture in particular. The last point of what I want to make, Carol, if I may, 2 more minutes, or a bit less, is the Elwaer initiative. It's an initiative was driven by Egypt. At the last COP, it was launched by Egypt hosting the COP. Elwaer stands for Action for Water Adaptation and Resilience. It has a number of work streams, and including, I just want to mention a few which directly relate to our topic today, and that's a work stream about decoupling the economic growth from the freshwater use and pollution. So we need economic growth, clear, but we need to decouple it from overusing our resources. It has a work stream on the strategy for protecting, restoring freshwater ecosystems. So also nature-based solutions, which are increasingly coming up in the region, are an important part of that work stream. But also a lot of river basin scale mitigation efforts are focused, as well as early warning systems for extreme weather. I spoke about early warnings before. And it's an initiative that really gets traction. A number of countries are supporting that. Each of the 6 work streams, always a country lead together with the UN organization. WMO, where I work, is involved in the early warning system, and we also host the secretariat for this initiative. And I think it can be a vehicle to really drive these developments that we would like to see in the region. Let me close by saying, earlier this week there was the last meeting of the water and climate leaders, and they said, I don't recall word by word, but they said, well, water is so critical for all the climate change, adaptation, mitigation efforts. On the other hand, water can be part of the solution. It can be really critical for adapting, for minimizing risk, but also for better climate change mitigation. And they said, the water and climate leaders said, well, if we take care of the water can really be absolutely critical for taking care of the climate and the planet and the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan, and thank you for also raising that linkage, regional to global, the initiatives that are happening globally on the early action, and Elwaer, which is a regional and global, a lot in Africa, and we're trying to extend it also to the Arab region more operationally. And the Arab Climate Outlook Forum, which also brings in the other dimension here that is very central to also the work of the WMO. Thank you. We'll turn over, and maybe if I have a segue, the Arab Climate Outlook Forum was actually established at the League of Arab States, but with the support of Sweden, way back. It's now 6 years ago that it was established. So I'm very happy to invite Magnus Andre, Regional Program Officer for MENA at the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, based at the Embassy of Sweden in Jordan, to share with us what Sweden is doing. They've always had a very active regional development program on climate and natural resources in the region. If you can share with us your thoughts on how we can work better together as we look at climate action with, of course, your collaboration. Please, Magnus.
Thank you very much, Carol. It's always a bit of a challenge following a high-level panel. A lot of key points, I think, have already been raised, but as Carol said, I will try to share some experience from the perspective of SIDA, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, specifically looking at what is our focus group. It's the most poor and the most vulnerable, and how what we are doing can support poverty eradication. Carol asked me specifically to talk a little bit about our experience and our thoughts around water, energy, food, and ecosystems nexus. And as I said, our focus is poverty alleviation, poverty eradication, and obviously this nexus is very much related to that. Lack of water or poor water quality will impact the most poor and the most vulnerable the most. Food insecurity and high food prices will also have a specific impact on the most poor. And obviously energy being a very important input into the agricultural sector, which provides income and employment for a significant part of the population in the Middle East. I think it's quite clear why we should engage on a comprehensive approach. Because the world is complicated, and this approach, I think, mirrors that complexity. Decisions done in terms of water obviously has an impact on the other sectors. We heard that desalination, which is an important way to increase supply of water, comes at a very high cost of energy. Similarly, we can see that in agriculture, I think was also mentioned by the previous panel, the agricultural sector consumes the majority of water in the MENA region, a region that is the most water scarce in the world. And as I said, that there's definitely a very strong linkage between energy and agriculture. I could mention, for example, in Jordan, where I'm based, a significant part of the energy is used for pumping and distributing water. So obviously, planning and taking decisions is very important to be done in a coordinated manner. And this, I think, and I think it's quite clear, will increase the quality of projects that are being proposed. Because I would really like to focus on tangible projects, tangible supports that we can do all together that would have a beneficial impact. But obviously getting funding for those projects is quite competitive. And having a coordinated approach, having the right data, having the buy-in from different sectoral ministries will increase the chances of actually having funded allocated to the project. And I think this is something that we need together to do better in the region. I don't think that the climate finance flows that are coming into the Middle East and North Africa reflects the vulnerability of the region. We really need to become better at capturing the funding, especially, I would say, funding for adaptation measures. And I'm not going to repeat what previous speakers have said, but definitely water scarcity is an area that needs more funding, and a way to get that is by developing better quality projects. And obviously working with regional cooperation, we see that there is a significant need for more regional partnerships. We are very happy to have a long-standing cooperation with ECOWAS. We have, for example, as has been mentioned, been collaborating on vulnerabilities, specifically the vulnerability of water and different sectors to climate change. This is done in the RICAR project, a project that will be scaled up now together with the support of the Arab Fund for Sustainable Development. And sharing experiences, sharing data is also a way of obviously developing, prioritizing which projects, which investments to be done, and increasing the quality of those investments.
Thank you, Magnus. Yeah, you have just last point. 'Cause
Okay,
we're over
sorry.
time.
I just wanted to mention from us, what we as a donor could do is to try to partner more, obviously with regional institutions like the League of Arab States and ESCWA, but also with MDBs and IFIs. I think that if we could use blended finance more effectively, it could be a way to definitely leverage investments, and doing that together with capturing more of the global climate finance that Sweden also supports will be one important step for the MENA region.
Thank you so much, Magnus. Also a partner, we've been talking a lot of the UN, the development cooperation, but regional institutions, regional research institutions, operational are very much part of the effort for Arab cooperation on climate change. So I'm very pleased to have with us Dr. Vinay Nangia, head of the research program at ICARDA, working on soil, water, and agronomy, to share with us how ICARDA is promoting Arab cooperation in these areas, adaptation, mitigation, and also working collaboratively with all the institutions in the region on this. Please.
Thanks, Carol. ICARDA is the only CGIAR center headquartered in the Arab region. So we've been serving the region since 1977, and we have quite a few innovations and success stories that we are very proud of promoting and sharing across the world. So many innovations have come out of the Arab world that have made it into sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and elsewhere. But I'll just give you 3 examples of seminal work I think we have done in recent past, which is ready for scaling. First is a USAID-funded MENA regional project we have in partnership with MIT, where we have introduced ultra-low energy drip irrigation systems. These operate at 85% lower pressure, so they require very little energy. What we have seen is that by providing these drippers for various different applications, we have tried on date palm, we have tried on argan trees, we have tried on olives, we have tried to bury them underground for subsurface irrigation, we have tried using them with treated wastewater in Jordan, we have tried them with fruits and vegetables and hydroponic systems, and they have done wonderfully well in all the environments in the MENA countries. So what it really does is it reduces your energy requirement by 60%, it reduces your capital cost by 50%, and it reduces your need for pressure by 85%. So you can run it off a very small solar-powered pump. And we have seen it if you want to go to Sharjah, if you go to Dubai, if you go to Yemen, you go to Jordan, you find these applications. Next thing that we have done is coupled it with a controller. What controller does is it looks at the weather, it looks at the solar radiation, it looks at the crop water requirement. Using machine learning, it does a weather forecasting, and then it optimizes all the resources. How much is my battery charged? How much is the solar radiation? How much may be the ET loss? Which is the ideal time to irrigate the crops so that your losses are minimum and you have best optimized use of your charge and your water resources. The next thing that we have introduced very recently in Egypt is solar-powered desalination, but not using reverse osmosis technology. What we have introduced is electrodialysis technology. That also is in partnership with MIT. And what ED does is that with electrodialysis, you produce almost 1/6 of the brine that you get from reverse osmosis, and it requires almost 40% less energy. So you can have solar power desalination of brackish groundwater and other kinds of saline water and use it for agricultural purposes. So one of the bottlenecks in MENA countries is that people don't have on-grid energy. They're not connected to the electricity, and they're using a lot of diesel power, which is not good for environment. So these solar applications have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by about 65%. So that's also another gain in terms of carbon side of things, energy sequestration side of things. Another project that we are doing, which is funded by SIDA in partnership with FAO, is the Water Scarcity Initiative, in which we started the MENA Regional Evapotranspiration Network. We have a network of flux towers in 7 countries already, and it's going to be expanded up into 10 countries in the MENA region, for all the way from Saudi Arabia to Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, so many countries included. And we are measuring actual evapotranspiration from rain-fed and irrigated croplands at 30-minute interval, making it available through an open access dashboard. So anybody can download these data sets for your own crop coefficients, KC value, your own smartphone applications for irrigation. You can do any kinds of application with remote sensing. So it's another international public good that we have produced with generous help of SIDA and FAO. So it's been operational for 3-4 years now, and with the second phase kicking in soon, we hope to be continuing this and expanding this for coming 4 years. Finally, there's another one which is somewhat different from water. It's on crop diversification. So we are trying to introduce low environmental footprint crop diversification option for the MENA countries. Here, farmers as well as government mostly promote wheat after wheat after wheat, and most of the support is also for wheat, and wheat is considered as food security. How much wheat are you producing? But what we are trying to say is there are so many underutilized and neglected crops that were prevalent and that were part of the diets that should be brought back, which are resilient to extreme climatic conditions, such as food legumes, lentils, quinoa. There are so many spices, aromatic plants that have disappeared from the bread basket. So with the help of Arab Fund as well as from BMGF, we have been trying alternative crop rotations so that you can have carbon sequestration, less need for fertilizers, less need for water, and at the same time you save energy and you provide nutritious diets. So crop diversification is another thing that we are promoting a lot. I don't know if I took 5 minutes, but sorry about that.
No,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, because you're bringing in then highlighting the technology. We're often talking about finance and the need and the governance of collaboration, the finance to make it do, but in the end, it's the technology that needs us, that it is on the ground to make the process go forward. So thank you for sharing those insights and all these innovations happening right here in the region. I'm then happy to turn to our last two speakers, who actually are the co-chairs of a regional collaborative platform we have in the Arab region. It's an issue-based coalition that actually focuses on climate change. I'm first going to turn to my colleague at UNEP, Tarek El-Houri, regional coordinator for climate change at the West Asia office of UNEP, who is in Beirut with us, who actually is, again, one of the co-chairs of the regional collaborative platform effort on IBC. But Tarek, why don't you share all these important initiatives also that we're doing together and with the League and others that you are doing to advance climate action and cooperation on this.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. I think we had very good inputs from our esteemed speakers on how much the climate change impact in our region is quite high, especially when it comes to water, etc. So this will require us to really work together in a very fast way to address those challenges. So when it comes to regional collaboration, we have many initiatives that are in common of the agencies that are here, but also with others. The most important one is the technical capacity workshop that we work on for the Arab negotiator. This is ESCWA is doing the heavy lifting under the leadership of the League of Arab States, with support from us and UNESCO. And we are quite proud of this work, because the negotiation is going tougher and tougher. And the agenda of those workshops is already set, always set by the negotiators themselves. So this is one example. Another example is a good one, and I invite everyone to check, is the LACI initiative, which is the Lima Knowledge Platform Initiative. This is also something we are doing with UNFCCC, also with ESCWA. And this initiatives has helped us identifying the adaptation knowledge gap in the region. So now we know what is missing when it comes to knowledge gap. And now we are moving to the phase 2 of seeing how we can implement and what action can we take to fill those gaps in partnership with many initiatives. As well, when it comes to adaptation, and we talked about what are the sectors, where we talked about the finance, etc. But planning is also important. This is something we are doing at UNEP. We are helping the region in advancing the work of national adaptation planning. It's very complicated work. It's costly. For now, we are depending on GCF to get funds for that. We are doing it for Iraq. We are Syria starting soon as well. We did it with Kuwait before, and this is an umbrella to put everything together and to ensure that we have comprehensive and inclusive planning when it comes to facing the climate change challenges. Transparency work also is unique in the region. I have to say our countries are well advanced when it comes to transparency reporting, and we have worked with Ricardo a lot for the Iraq one, and we had a good result on the impact of climate change, especially when it comes to water, as well as the crops. So this was nice example. Can I talk about mitigation a little bit?
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, good. So although the Arab states are responsible only for 4 to 5% of the global greenhouse gas emission globally. If we are measuring according to UNFCCC, this is not a lot. But if we are measuring per capita, 3 or 4 of our country will come to top 10. So mitigation, it's also important. And we are glad to see almost all the GCC countries has pledged for net zero transition or net zero target by 2050 and 2060. And this is something that it's on our radar. We are helping Kuwait now developing their long-term low-carbon strategy. It's almost done. But this will require also collaboration, especially with the energy work that ESCWA is doing. So this is something we should not forget. Not only adaptation, but we need to work on mitigation, because per capita we are not doing well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tariq. And again, bringing the connection, adaptation and mitigation, both are priorities of action, but also we have to decide where the funding should go more, because we also know that it's not a balanced approach. 2/3 of resources coming to, financial resources coming to the region are going for mitigation and not adaptation. So yes, both have to be on, but I think at this COP we're also hearing that adaptation has to have a balanced chair at the table, and more resources and global targets for adaptation funding and action are also priority, especially in this arid region, which is why it's great to then turn back to FAO that talks about aridity, water scarcity, and what it means for agriculture and food security. I'm very pleased to turn over to Teresa Wong, Climate Change Officer for the Near East and North Africa Office of the FAO, to bring us closing this panel on how you are looking and working on cooperation to move us forward on the nexus.
Thank you so much, Carol, and for having us as partner in this panel. I mean, I'm going to be talking, I'm downstream of the panel. I'm also downstream of water use, I think, thinking about agricultural sectors as in the high-level session, my colleague, the Deputy Director, also referred to agricultural sectors being the largest user of water. I mean, the IPCC, I think, report this year has also really quite unequivocally talked about agricultural productivity having a big hit in the last 50 years. We're talking about the certainty of agricultural drought is something that we're now facing, and they've also been talking about cascading risks, right? So it's all the interconnections that we have been talking about all day. The other thing we want to stress is that agricultural populations are also the people we kind of need to think about, because they are the ones who are highly exposed to climate change. In spite of the diversity in our region, we do have, in some countries, quite a large proportion of the population living in rural areas, dependent on agriculture. In fact, some of the studies have also seen that a lot of the perennial or the annual crops, the livestock in the region is also managed by small-scale farmers. Family farming is still a very large proportion of agricultural, the economy. So I think when we're looking at the kinds of targets that we want, the RICAR, for example, data set to really point out the impacts of agriculture and water precisely on these vulnerable populations, the populations that have low adaptive capacity, who need a lot more technical, financial, a lot more support to catch up in order to adapt. So FAO, I think, has been doing this for quite a long time, thanks to the support of partners working with ESCWA, but also with SIDA and a lot of other partners in the region, and of course with ICARDA and UNEP. We've had a water scarcity initiative based at the regional office for 10 years. Over the last couple of years, we've also been implementing a water efficiency and productivity project that has just closed with thanks to the support of SIDA, Swedish funds. And I think throughout these projects, we've really tried to target capacities, and was mentioned in the Q&A last time, and also making sure we have a knowledge of, a network of knowledge experts, people who are empowered to give advice and guidance on water allocation, advising governments to really reflect the true cost of water in their actions, water accounting and water harvesting. In fact, in Jordan, we have a GCF project right now that's focused on water harvesting. And so making full use of available water resources in particularly scarce environments. But I think the Water Scarcity Initiative, or FAO, through all this time has been very keen on also supporting policy processes. I think we believe that collaboration with the League of Arab States at that regional level is very critical. And I think that we've also worked together to go from that first joint ministerial meeting on water to the adoption of the Cairo Declaration on Water. So I think these have continued and been very important. I think I just want to in the last 1.5 minutes, end with 3 points that I see maybe the need for. I think we need to, when we talk about the nexus, water, energy, and food, I think we need to bring that a little closer to the downstream needs, right? One of them is, I think, bringing that closer to what we do on climate-smart agriculture, or things that we do to create climate resilience in agricultural sector and rural livelihoods. I think, for example, in Iraq, where we're also working with SIDA and working with the government of Canada, and hopefully a GCF project soon to create climate resilience within populations. These are, of course, about climate-smart agriculture, drought-resistant crops, and all the things that we do there. But it has to be accompanied by the treatment of water, the sort of calculations that we do to ensure water efficiency. So we can't really, and I know we have too many nexuses or nexi or whatever. We have 3 things in one, but we have to also bring them together in the fold of what else we do in agriculture and adaptation. And I think that Iraq project demonstrates the one that they're starting up, and we're also doing the same in Egypt in the Delta. The second thing is that we don't do enough to bring this into ecosystems level efforts. And I think with the work with ESCWA that we've done over the past year is to really do a pilot study in Algeria and Lebanon on watersheds in these 2 countries, bringing downscaled RICAR data, sort of understanding impacts of water, or projecting sort of water use and water availability over a period of time, and then designing some climate-smart agricultural packages around that. The last point I want to make is that I think we still need to really put a lot more effort into bringing water sector actors into our national climate change processes, our national adaptation plans, decarbonization efforts, long-term strategies, etc. I think there are policymakers, but then there's also the demand side. We need to ensure that the water sector actors who live on the demand side, agriculture, etc., need to be in this conversation. And we have the NET process also gives us a very important, complex, difficult place for dialogue. And these are the people that we need to bring in.
Thank you,
to the
Teresa,
conversation.
really. Thank you very much.
So I just
we need to wrap up because I have 5 minutes, but thank you very much for bringing that all. I really want to give, at least we have 5 minutes left, and they cut us off in this room to allow some time for questions. But I wanted to give you more because you're the sole woman on the panel also to have a little bit more equity. But I'm going to just turn it, and thank you again to our panel just for a question, because they will stop us in 5 minutes. Please. Do we have the mic?
Hi, I'm Charity. I'm with the University of Maine. I was just wondering if any of your organizations are doing any work to further promote agrivoltaics in the region, just talking about the nexus of water, energy, and food, since it can help with water retention as well as diversify sort of the economic interests of rural farmers.
So the economics of the nexus. Okay, any other questions? Okay, who wants to talk about, am I not seeing? Yes, please. The mic, please.
Margherita Tranchina, Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna from Italy. So yeah, similar question if any of you have direct experience with agroforestry, so particularly, yeah, mixed farming and, yeah, again, diversification in economic terms.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're coming towards the end, and I want to give everyone a chance for 30 seconds to also wrap up. So can I do a 30-second, and then everyone take note of those questions? It's okay. I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds to wrap up, and you can respond to that question. Dr. Mahmoud, do you want to say anything to close us as a session? Anything you'd like to comment?
No.
Okay, the intergovernmental processes are strong.
Yeah.
Stefan, anything you want to highlight at the end?
Maybe just to repeat, if we take good care of the water and the land, that really helps us to address climate change. Absolutely, and it gets a little bit forgotten. It's the absolutely necessary transition to energy, but we really need to look at it in an integrated way. Thank you.
Thank you. Magnus?
Yeah, just want to mention there's a need to scale up, and as I said, to partner more with the financial institutions. But we should obviously scale up the right things. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to an answer to the questions asked from the technical experts. Thanks.
You'd like to?
Yeah, I'll just answer the both questions. So in terms of agrovoltaics, we work in Egypt on that. So we are trying to cover the canals with solar panels, as well as try to put solar panels on the ground and try to grow crops that are that love shaded areas and try to grow them in the middle of deserts. So we are trying to couple the two and also at the same time produce energy to try to store it or sell it. So it can be an alternate source of income for farmers. But the policies don't allow that yet. So on that side, there is still room to work. On agroforestry, we work in Morocco. Between olive trees, between citrus trees, there is lots of space. They're spaced almost 8 meters apart. So all that area that has lots of shaded area and moisture, and we are trying to grow fruits and vegetables, cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. in that bare area and try to cover it to expose that soil at the same time, use that residual soil moisture for having additional source of income. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any final comments?
Thank you, Carol. Please check the UN decade for ecosystem restoration. It's something that's done between FAO and UNEP, and it will answer a lot of your question. And also check the UN RIDDD program. It was a pleasure to be here. I mean, collaboration is key. Too much to be done. Adaptation remains a priority. We are a very vulnerable region, and we need to keep an eye on the loss and damage because it's happening already. And we are very pleased to see the progress that took place in the negotiation. And I know FAO organized something about that as well under the IBC. So I think we need to be ready to support the countries and all stakeholders, all the agencies sitting here on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, that was the heart of what I was trying to say about ecosystems level work, agroforestry, and all the sort of landscape-based interventions. And we've been doing this in Yemen, and I think it's also helped we have some evidence that it's sort of restoring aquifers, groundwater, and basically ecosystem health for an agroforestry sort of project that we've done to restore for cedar plantations. It's also linked to value chain interventions and making sure high value, products that are sort of worth that use of water is done. So we have some of that examples. And again, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the panel.
Thank you very much, distinguished the panel. I would just want to wrap up by just saying, we talk about collaboration, and collaboration is part of the partnership the SDGs that allow us to move forward. Means of implementation have to do with capacity building. We've heard about tools there. Finance, technology, but without partnerships and collaboration, we all work in silos. So really thanks to all our partners here we've been working with for a long time for you to join us here, and we stand ready to also expand our partnerships as we move forward to the next 15 years that build upon the start that the Arab region has really been engaged in with moving ahead on climate action. We weren't there 15 years ago. We're definitely on the map now, and we'll see where we go for the next decade. So thank you very much for being with us today.